lecture, we will understand which are the different options that we have when we have to create an organizational unit. In other words, we will see which are the different criteria to be used to group the positions and the activities within organizational units. We can identify three different criteria, which are the numeric grouping, the input-oriented grouping, and the output-oriented grouping. Before going in details into the three possible choices we have for grouping, a general comment on why we can have different options. The goals of choosing different grouping criteria are mainly two. On one hand, minimizing the coordination costs between organizational units. On the other hand, minimizing the transaction costs between organizational units. We know that coordination costs refer to the costs related to coordination among different organizational units, while transaction costs refer to the costs needed to exchange information and resources between organizational units. In defining the type of criterion to be used to group activities, we need to analyze the different types of interdependencies between different activities and positions inside the company. The simplest criterion is the numeric grouping. Numeric grouping is based on the idea of dividing the different positions that you have among the different organizational units in a simple numerical way. So, for example, if we have 100 people working within a call center, with all these people doing similar activities, we can decide to divide these people in 5 organizational units with the aim to find a proper level of span of control, namely the proper number of reports for a single supervisor. Typically, this grouping criteria is applied when there is high homogeneity in the positions held by different people and there is high interchangeability within the different positions in the organization. The input-oriented grouping criterion is based on the idea of grouping together in the same organizational unit those positions that require similar competencies and skills, or grouping together jobs that require similar processes, technologies, or techniques. In other words, we group together positions or jobs that require the same inputs. A typical example of this grouping criterion are the university departments, which are divided by disciplines. Talking about companies, we can think about a manufacturing company producing cars. They typically group together people and processes related to production of a specific part of the car, distinguishing, for example, the engine production from the brakes production and the car body production. So to group together specific distinguished competencies and technologies. Similarly, in this kind of company, we usually find a sales and marketing unit that groups together people with specific commercial skills and sales goals. Finally, the output-oriented grouping criterion groups jobs and positions that are aimed to produce the same outputs. In particular, we can have 3 different kinds of output grouping. First, we can group job or positions producing or selling a specific product or service. For example, creating 2 different organizational units for different kinds of products, one producing plastic bottles and one producing glass bottles. Second, we can group together activities that are aimed at serving specific categories of customers. For example, we can create a unit dedicated to private customers and one unit dedicated to corporate customers. Third, we can group jobs and positions that operate in a specific geographical market, so that all the activities in this area are related to the specific country or region. The driving factor of the choice between the different criteria is related to the type of objectives and benefits. If we are looking for efficiency, we typically use an input-oriented criterion that allows to have higher volumes in performing activities, with the achievement of economy of scale thanks to the volume and economy of specialization where people develop specific knowledge. On the other hand, if we aim at maximize effectiveness, an output-oriented criterion is preferred. In fact, with output-oriented grouping, you can better integrate processes and workflows, and as a consequence, we can obtain better quality, lower response time, better customer service. The grouping criteria allows us to build different organizational structures at the macro level, which you will see in details in another lecture.